I'm Gemma Lonsdale, psychic medium and life coach, and you're listening to the Happy Psychic Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the Happy Psychic Podcast. It is so wonderful to have you here again for another week. Now, this week's episode is really inspired by something that a lady within my coaching community is experiencing at the minute. Now, yesterday, she posted a comment in regard to one of the coaching exercises that I had posted out. We get a new exercise in there every day. So if it's something that you're actually interested in exploring and you haven't looked at it yet, then definitely head across to my website and check that out. But what the exercise was actually looking at was figuring out what sort of behaviors we adopt in our life. Addictions, I have called them addictions, but what sort of behaviors do we adopt in our lives in order to fill a void within us? We looked at a whole variety of different things. We looked at what we do to beautify ourselves. We looked at what we do in terms of our eating habits. Do we overeat? Do we undereat? Do we focus too much on obsessive behaviors and obsessive thinking? Do we use alcohol? Do we use drugs? All of these different things that we have a tendency to lean on really are crutches within our life. And whenever we start to notice ourselves having a crutch, it's basically helping to prop us up and put a band-aid over a void or some sort of hidden wound that we're experiencing internally. So the exercise was really based on figuring out what it is in our lives that we are using as a crutch and what is it that we think it's masking. It was really just to get everybody within the coaching program to start to think a little bit more about the behaviors that they're really adopting day to day, because we don't know what we don't know. And I used to laugh at a man that used that phrase a lot. And I feel quite embarrassed about that now because he was absolutely right. We don't know what we don't know. We think we know everything that there is to know. We think we know ourselves to the best of our ability. But the reality is that time and the experiences that we have will always uncover extra things that we haven't actually been aware of. So we don't know what we don't know. And actually, whenever we start to think about these things, it can become apparent that we're really focusing on going through life on autopilot, and we're not really consciously aware of a lot of the habits that we have, a lot of the addictions that we might have, and what those behaviors are actually covering up in the first place. Even scrolling on social media constantly, whenever we become so absorbed in that, it is filling a void within us, and it's creating a behavior pattern that is really taking us away to our external environment rather than focusing on us ourselves. The question that this lady had was, okay, well, I am, sort of picking up that I need to focus on myself more. And she actually explained that all through her life, her husband, her friends, her family, it was always as though she was just a second thought. She was an afterthought in plans, and she wasn't really prioritized. So this is obviously something profound that she has really uncovered. And she's like, well, what do I do with that information? I don't know what to do with that. How do I fix that? I don't really know what to do. And I thought that it was a very good question because, again, I was coming from a place of my knowledge base, and what she was starting to pick up on was something that I already knew, but it was knowledge and information that she was becoming aware of for the first time. And when she became aware of that, I would have instinctively known at this part of my journey and doing what I do for a living that she is being triggered into focusing on her and she needs to make herself a priority. But it really reminded me of the fact that actually not everybody knows what I know. And that is the reason why I'm doing the job that I'm doing. I'm here to help guide you and help handhold you and help shine a light on these things. Whenever we really picked it apart, the situation that she's in, she's actually being triggered by her external environment. And I really want you all to be aware that whenever that happens, whenever you're feeling left out, or whenever you're feeling rejected, or whenever you're feeling unhappy because of the actions of another person or a situation that you find yourself in, when it's the external environment that is causing you to feel that way, and especially whenever you've started to identify patterns in your life where this always happens or this keeps happening, what it's trying to do is reflect back on you, the fact that you are experiencing that yourself. So in the situation where she was experiencing always being an afterthought, really what the universe was trying to reflect back on her was that she wasn't prioritizing herself. She wasn't putting herself first. And whenever I actually had the direct conversation with her, because of my ability, my spiritual gift, I was able to get an extra layer with that. And one of the things that came through was the guilt. The guilt that she experiences whenever she starts to put herself first, the guilt that she experiences whenever she is prioritizing herself over other people, the guilt that she experiences whenever she is setting a boundary with somebody, the guilt that she experiences whenever she's not there to support someone else. And those are all things actually that many of us experience to some degree. It's very interesting because the focus this week is on self-love, and it's on, loving your mind and your body. So it was very pertinent, obviously, in connection with that and the topic that we were covering, that she uncovered this thing about herself. But it is something that a lot of us experience. A lot of us go through this. A lot of us don't love ourselves to the extent that we should do. So if we are going through cycles, or we're experiencing patterns of behavior with the people in our life or the world around us, it is a sign for us to consider what we can do to fill that void ourselves. So in this lady's case, it wasn't really a case of just learning to live with feeling as though, you're an afterthought. It's learning that actually we can be that person for ourselves, and we should be that person for ourselves. There's all too often cases where we are putting our validation and our self-worth in the hands of someone else, and we are putting our happiness in the hands of someone else, or in other situations. So whether it's in a romantic partner or it's in a job, I will feel valued if I get this job, or if I get the pay rise, or we ask ourselves questions of, why am I not acknowledging, or why are my colleagues not acknowledging how great I am? Why does my boss keep overlooking me? Why do I keep getting rejected on dating sites? Why have I, not experienced this yet? When we notice the patterns, it's really important that we take a moment to just hit pause and start to become aware of, firstly, that there is a pattern there, and that pattern and that experience is trying to tell us something. Whenever we feel that deep inner wound, and that's whenever we're being triggered, whenever we have such an adverse reaction, that is the trigger hitting us. Triggers aren't a bad thing. I know that we have a tendency to, oh my gosh, you've triggered me, I'm removing you from my life. Triggers are actually a really good thing to experience if you're aware that that's actually what's happening. Because whenever we experience a trigger, what that's actually doing is shining a torch on the part of you that really needs healed. It's shining a torch on a wound that you may not have been aware of otherwise. Whenever you feel that pain or that discomfort, that is your sign that you can focus on healing that part of you. I get triggered. I am not above being triggered. I have things that would have triggered me a lot more years ago than what they do today. I have things that happen today where I would have flown off the handle years ago, where I can be indifferent towards them. And that is a sign of us healing. You will never be 100% healed. You will never be completely where you want to be, but you will always experience improvements if you're consciously aware of your healing journey, and you're consciously aware of the world around you and how it's making you feel, the patterns that it's actually bringing into your life, and what it's helping you heal. Because everything outside of us is a reflection of us on the inward. So if we are going through those experiences of having those triggers and seeing those, oh, well, I'm always being left out, nobody ever picks me, nobody ever loves me, why can't I be picked? Pick yourself. This is the universe telling you to pick yourself. All of that love and energy and effort that you put outside of you, whether it's in romance or friendships, focus that on you. And whenever we actually talked, me and this lady, you will see her comments if you're in the group, but I don't want to just start using her name publicly without her permission, because I hadn't really sought her permission to come and talk about this today. whenever she actually became aware, she was actually reading my comment back to her, my message back to her. Whenever she started to feel selfish, she was already thinking in her head, oh, is it really selfish? It's really selfish of me to put myself first, isn't it? Like, I shouldn't be doing that. It's selfish. And then she read my comment where I was saying about the guilt that she experiences in putting herself first. And she sort of laughed to herself because she said, oh, my gosh, I keep thinking like I'm selfish. Putting yourself first is not selfish. And within the society that we live in, especially women, and I don't want to discount any of you guys that are listening as well, but obviously I'm a woman. I can speak from a woman's point of view, but the woman is the nurturer. She is the person that is supposed to take care of the kids and, take care of the partner and to fix the lunches up and make sure everybody has clean socks and, kiss the boo-boo better and all of these different things that we're expected to do. And we're taught that actually that's a really good thing if we give to other people. And actually, another thing as well that I had noticed is often whenever we look at a person, a woman, we will say, oh, she's a good woman. She did everything for him. Or, she would walk over hot coals for this person or for her kids. And it's like a badge of honor to be able to say that we're that sort of person. But you can't give people what you don't already have yourself. And if you're constantly giving people the dregs because you don't have enough in your own cup in the first place, that is not doing you any justice. It's not doing them any justice. And really what you're doing is running yourself into the ground. There is no badge of honor for you if you were going to put yourself in second place or even last place. It's one of the things that I've been really battling with, even as a mother. I've always put my daughter first. I always thought, well, she needs to have things. If money has been tight, it's always been, well, I'll make sure she has what she needs. I'll make sure she doesn't go without. But actually, that isn't necessarily the case. I need to give back to myself as a woman. I'm working hard. I'm a single parent. I'm paying all the bills. I'm taking care of myself. I'm taking care of my girl. That does not mean that I need to go without myself. That does not mean that I need to give to another person more than what I would give to myself. And that's obviously her being my child. We need to change our thoughts around what we're giving to ourselves. We need to become more comfortable with boundaries. We need to lose the guilt over this feeling of overgiving. And the only way that that's really going to go is by chipping away at it bit by bit, starting to implement practices where we are nurturing ourselves, we're creating time for ourselves, we're doing something nice for ourselves. We're setting that boundary. We're telling that friend that actually I can't be there for you today because I need to focus on me. I need to be there for me. And those are all really good acts of self-care. And it's the self-care that will really go towards helping you love yourself that little bit more. And it will feel uncomfortable if it's something that you're not used to doing. It will feel uncomfortable. I used to feel this incredible guilt of, well, I can't let that person down. I can't let them down, especially in work. If I was sick, if I had flu, if I was dying, I had cancer, for goodness sake. And I was thinking to myself, but I can't go for this appointment for my cancer because I'm going to let my boss down. My boss needs me here. And it's bizarre thinking back on that now and reflecting back that I had that thought process because I am the only person that I can really depend on in this world. The same for you. And I don't care what support network you have, how amazing your partner is, how great your best friend is. You are the only person that you can truly depend on in your life. And you really need to make sure that you're prioritizing yourself and making sure that you are putting yourself first in order to give to other people. If you're giving yourself first, you're filling your own cup. Once your cup is overflowing, that's whenever you can start to give out to other people. There's no shame in that. But it's not a case of we can just change overnight. It's not about having a realization all of a sudden all of your prayers have been answered and you suddenly love yourself and all of these things aren't an issue, and you find that actually setting boundaries is okay now and you can prioritize yourself. Change happens gradually. So we're not expecting change to happen overnight. We're not expecting change to happen in an instant. It is something that's gradual. It will take some time to chip away at. And it will make you uncomfortable, but it will get easier. You just have to keep chipping away at the things. Take one thing. If you're wanting to make a change, take one thing. One of those things that I've suggested, or one thing that you're struggling with in your life at the moment, and make it your focus to start to get comfortable with that. Whenever you're starting to feel a discomfort, that is when the change is happening. That is where the growth happens. Whenever we start to feel those uncomfortable feelings coming in, that's where the change is going to happen. We don't change whenever we're always in a comfortable position. So if you want to change and you want to feel better about yourself and you want to see the world look at you better, then make the change. Start to put yourself in that uncomfortable position and make the changes bit by bit, and it will all come to fruition for you. I seen a quote on it was on TikTok actually, and the lady had actually said, focus on you until the focus is on you. And I'm sure that some of you will have heard it 100 times before, but it really spoke to me, actually. It really, really spoke to me that whenever we are in a situation where we're not getting picked, we're not getting noticed, we're not getting the pat on the back, we're not getting the promotion, we're not getting the dates, focus on you. Make sure you're the focus. Fill that void. Make sure you're nurturing yourself and nourishing yourself as best you can, emotionally, physically. And soon enough, you will be the person that gets all of those things. But we have to be okay at putting ourselves first in the first place. I hope you have enjoyed that. I do have some amazing guests lined up. We are scheduling interviews, we are recording, there is edits happening. So there's going to be some really interesting conversations hitting the podcast soon. You can also check out my YouTube. I would love for you to follow and subscribe to me over there as well. And you can watch my long form content. I've obviously got my content on TikTok. I've got some content on Instagram. TikTok is really where I spend most of my time. I'm starting to put my energy more into YouTube as well now. And I would just love to have you on all of my socials, really. I would love to connect to you everywhere. And likewise, if coaching is something that you're interested in, if you are wanting to improve your life and create a life that you love and overcome all of these blocks and obstacles, the online coaching community could be something for you. It's a monthly subscription. You can come and join, see what it's like, stay. If you feel like you're not getting the value from it or it's not right for you for whatever reason, you can cancel it anytime. There's no contract. I also do one-to-one coaching, and if you have an event coming up or you know of any events that would be worth me speaking at, you can definitely put me in touch with the person or put my details in front of the person that's scheduling the event. And I love to help you all. I love to be here creating this content and pushing it out and helping you all along your journey a little bit more. So I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast episode, and I will be back for more very soon.